Today we're going to talk about using subtle color changes. And in particular, we're going to be taking a look at autumn colors. On a recent trip, I have a lot of images through New Mexico. So we're going to use those to talk about the color range we want to use and how to make subtle color changes without just being too much of a slave to the photograph, having to copy exactly what we see, but think through the colors we want to use to suggest, in this case, autumn colors.
This lesson we're going to talk about color variation, in particular more autumn colors, because the series of photographs here are autumn from a recent trip, and it is autumn. So I thought it'd be a good time to talk about what you're thinking of when you're mixing color and using autumn as kind of a point of reference here. You could do the same thing in the winter, certain set of colors that are subtle variations between different colors. Same thing in the summer and so on. So we have autumn, and this is from a trip I just made going to Oklahoma City. So I go through New Mexico, and on 25 there, I'm following the Rio Grande River. A lot of cottonwoods along the river in the small farming villages, and you get a lot of color. So when we're thinking about autumn, and I want to get away from just copying the photograph, I want to think in terms of certain colors I want to use, different subtle color changes between a set of colors. So if I go to a color wheel here, and I'm thinking autumn, I'm probably going to be more violet through yellow-green. That doesn't mean I don't have any green, blue. I do. Usually I show these more for depth. No matter what the season or colors are, I'm going to be using a lot of these cooler blue colors to show depth, but more of the red-violet to yellow-green, or I could even knock it down to red-orange to yellow or yellow-green. But either way, I want to have subtle variations of those. So let's take it from just red-orange to yellow-green here. And again, doesn't mean I won't have these other colors in there. And I will certainly use the complements of all these colors, which engages these colors. But it's these colors here that are going to dominate. They're going to be the main focus of the painting. So I have red, orange, orange, yellow, yellow-green. And you can even break it down further to yellow-green, yellow, orange. But, still using this right side of the color wheel. So going to this photograph, what I like to do is I look at this, whether I'm inside or outside painting, but I have a lot of yellow-green, a lot of yellow-green up here. There's a lot of yellow-green in there, even though it doesn't look like this yellow-green. It is yellow-green. And if I start with the yellow, add a little yellow-green, I'm going to come up with this tree. So yellow-green can run the gamut from almost yellow to almost green. And it could fall into yellow-green. So there's not just one yellow-green that I have to think about all the time. So I have the yellow-green down here, more yellow-green up here, and then also yellow to yellow-orange. And I'm having some violets for the bare branches, from violet to red-violet. Some green, but more red-orange in it, and then yellow-orange. So I'm thinking, in terms of, make it even simpler, more simple, just the yellow-orange, yellow-green with the complements. Some violet to gray down the yellow-orange, red-violet to gray down the yellow-green, and violet to gray down the yellow. But most of the colors are going to be dominated by these three colors. Once in a while, it'll go more to these, but I'm sticking with those three colors. So you can almost see it as kind of a color scheme, an analogous color scheme of yellow, orange, yellow, and yellow-green. Knowing that I don't have to stick with just those three, but it gives me a pile of colors to mix up and start with there. And most of the value is light. You can see the dark shapes, and you want to find the shadow pattern to set up the composition, but most of it's going to be lighter. So if I start with the three piles of yellow-green, yellow-orange, and go ahead and make it orange to red-orange, and then the complements of those, and just make subtle changes between those piles with the yellow-green, yellow-orange, orange being dominant, and the other colors used to modify and to gray it a little bit. But finding that shadow pattern is going to make it a lot easier. simplifying everything is going to make it a lot easier. So going to some other images here. This one also, you can see the yellow-green here. Again, it's muted. A little bit of red-violet, which should be alizarin crimson, just to mute it slightly. But still, yellow-green is going to dominate here. Yellow, orange to orange, the trees up here, with some yellow-green used to break it up. And here I'm using more violet and kind of yellow-green for these sunlit trees. The yellow-green is suggesting the sunlight, and then the violet is knocking it down. I just see it as a yellow-green that has violet in it. And I'm sticking with those colors because those are more of the autumn colors and the colors that I see. So if I have the yellow-green here, the yellow-orange, by the time I get here I have a combination of both, orange and yellow-green. And of course the value is darker. The value is always going to come first. But after considering the value, I want to think about what colors to use. So everything is geared towards those warm yellows, yellow-greens, to the violet to red-violet. And I'm going to stick with that and come up with those colors. Now, there is kind of a muted blue-violet here. And again, I would stick with more of the blue-violet with a little yellow-green back in here. And even a blue and slightly yellow-green sky just harmonizes the colors, makes them pull together a bit more. It also ties the colors together. I don't want to have to break the painting up so much that I'm just isolating areas and copying what I see. And these have all been cropped. I usually take a wide angle picture so when I get home I can zoom in. Here the shadow pattern is very evident. If you squint at this, the lights really pop out everywhere and the shadow pattern pulls together. But here again I have yellow-orange, yellow-green, dark yellow-green, dark yellow-orange in the building, blue-violet and red-violet in the background. So everything is geared again towards that yellow-green to orange color scheme with the complements involved, the red-violet and blue-violet. And again, considering first the contrast and the value changes. This one also, I don't think this one's been cropped, but can be cropped a lot. And always consider what I'm interested in. That'll determine whether it's a long composition or a square or vertical. And here I'm more interested in, I think, the expanse of the background with this kind of creek running through it. Now I might have the tree a bit too centered. And I could also think of this in terms of a vertical as well. Again, trying to get things out of center. I don't want that big yellow tree to be too centered. I also don't like this being kind of flat, so I want to vary it, maybe run it off a little bit in there. Change the shape of the trees to make your composition read a little bit better. But again, the grass here is a good example of a lot of yellow-green, yellow-orange, yellow. Muted has to have the complement in it. And I might pick one area or two in the grass that I want to jump out a bit more. Maybe not add as much or any complementary color. But I'm still staying with that yellow-green to red-orange color scheme. So if I'm looking at this on my palette, I'm going to have a lot of cad yellow light with a little bit of blue or viridian, or maybe both, yellow and orange, and alizarin crimson to slowly add to the yellow to make it more of a orange to red orange. And I can use cad orange as well. The alizarin crimson is also the red violet, and then the ultramarine blue is used to mix the complements to those warmer colors, the blue, blue violet, and red violet. So think through those colors, look at your image and force everything into that variation. Remember that value is more important. Again, I see kind of a reddish violet back in here. How strong or muted I make it is strictly up to me. Then the yellow-green to yellow-orange to orange back in here. More of the complement to cool it down and make it go back. Here I'll be adding less of the complement. It's a little too gray in the photograph, but still some of the complement to make it muted, and then maybe have this the strongest orange to yellow-orange. But I'd still add a little bit of yellow-green in here just to break it up. Because because I want a lot of variation. In fall, there's always traces of the summer left, the green, yellow-green, along with the yellow-orange, red-orange, and red-violet. Because by this time also there's some bare trees showing up and gives you a lot of that violet as well.